Titi Ertiö, and I'm a researcher of civic engagement. Every now and then I also look at digital engagement. I'm actually really happy to be here today because this is my alma mater, and this is something that now I can give back to the community for me. My mentors are here, and I'm just very happy that we look at these new forms of how to engage the citizens and how their ideas and their contributions are valuable and how to turn that into practice. So before I really start, I would like to focus you on the digital. I think it's not really about the technology, although to a large extent it is. But nobody really wants to have the drill, right? Like everybody wants just to use that drill to have an outcome. And also, I really like this quote, technology is the answer, but what was the question? What are we actually trying to solve here? Why are we employing technologies? Why are we employing a specific technology for a specific purpose? So one of the research methods that has been really popular when we look at cities and at civic engagement, and also how to test and pilot different kinds of things, has been the concept of urban labs, or living labs. And basically there what we have, it's a model where we test different kinds of technology, so it's very much an environment for experimentation, for innovation, but we do that in a very open kind of way. We focus on the users, on the people who actually use this technology, but also we want to have it as collaboratively set up as possible. So in this perspective, this open technology is really, open innovation is really just a way of saying that you can all participate, and this is open for ideas and for comments. And then when we look specifically at what we do, it is a matter of co-creation, right? We know that nobody can actually move things on their own, but we are much better off if we try to build things together. And the city is in many ways where we live our lives, so it's just natural that we test and experiment these kinds of new concepts and new solutions in an urban living lab sector. Now, if we talk about these stakeholders, who they are, there are, of course, the individual citizens, but there's also small organizations, NGOs, the fourth sector, and I really want to keep the focus really on the people, on the users. But to that, there's also the municipality, the public sector, the different kinds of public agencies that are involved. But also the private sector, right? The companies who perhaps have some really innovative tools that they want to test. I was part of a project where we used this idea of the living lab to test the potential of mobile participation in 2015. And we looked at the collaboration between the citizens and the municipality of Turku on how to use mobile participation to make citizen engagement in a more interactive way, but also to basically test different kinds of hypotheses that we had about mobile participation. We developed this type of application called TASA, and from from the research perspective, of course, we had this hypothesis, but we also went into the community. We asked people to send suggestions, what kind of features they want to have there. We worked with the city to give us this kind of questions that we want them to be answered during this trial and so on. And that also involved for us to communicate back on the results that we received. We learned much about the potential of mobile technologies, but perhaps the biggest motivators for the citizens themselves to test this kind of pilots and trials was they were really curious. It was something new, it was something that they were not necessarily familiar with. I mean, we use a lot our mobile phones, but we don't necessarily use them to participate in urban planning. They were also very open and wanted to communicate their ideas with the city, and they saw it as a good platform to leverage their ideas. We also tested different kinds of ideas that were connected to gamification. As we heard in the previous talks, there is great potential to engage people with different kinds of game elements into talking to each other, into having interactions that basically help build on each other's ideas. One of the things that maybe does not come out as this great potential of the city that we have, especially if we think about urban planning. We are very often presented with different kinds of grand plans and visions, but there is potential to engage the citizen right at the spot where these plans are proposed. And here you can see an example of an infill building. They developed these 3D models, this kind of augmented reality features, which you can basically see through the camera of your mobile phone. So then you don't necessarily need to imagine how it would look like in real life, but you would be there in the setting and you could see how it looks. And they also combine this kind of augmented reality experience with more traditional kinds of citizen walk and citizen meeting and public meetings to create and to facilitate the two opportunities that we have here. One way how the citizens can contribute to bettering their city is by using this type of reporting apps. This is just one example, but there are many whereby you have an app on your phone and you can request different service requests. It works really, really easily. You can, for example, here in the report section, if you want, you can upload a picture, and then this is sent to the internal or the back office of the city, and it gets resolved, and you can track your contribution during the entire time and see what the status is. And it allows citizens also to follow up. They don't necessarily need to wait until it gets fixed. They can see who is handling their request at a certain time. A different kind of engagement has been constructed around open data, public open data, which is basically now turning into a strategic policy for many cities. You have different kinds of portals where data on the city is being shared. It is a lot about having different kinds of standards and doing a lot of harmonizing of the different data sets so that they can be used, they can be machine readable. But it's also a matter of having APIs so that developers can tap into the portals and extract the data from there. And one of the models in which citizens can participate in open data is through these hackathons or application competitions, whereby you have all these data sets, and then citizens can basically build new apps, new services based on this open public data. It's really, it may sound that this is really just the playground for software developers. But I think in every competition, in every open data challenge, they really go to great lengths to make this process more inclusive, because they want to have to have diverse teams. They want to have people who have the ideas but who don't necessarily know how to code, and to pair them. So the teams that are presented there, they are just nucleus of co-creation and of cooperation. Many of these open data apps are standalone, but many of them are also adopted by the cities and become part of the services that the city makes available to the citizens. And one of these services, for example, uses, for example, the open data that is available in Helsinki from the public transport, but also the city bikes. Basically, it's an app that combines different kinds of ways to go around in a city. It combines public transport, taxis, cars, city bikes, and so on. So the user or the citizen has a seamless experience in how to move. One of the ways in which citizens can contribute ideas is also through this participatory budgeting. And there, citizens, so how participatory budgeting works is that there is a sum of money that is made disposable that is given to the citizens, and they can propose different kinds of projects. There is also this hybrid kind of engagement. There are online platforms, some of them are also open source, but also community meetings in which citizens come together to have ideas and to create projects that they want to implement in cities. And basically, if we think about the online platforms, it's really just another layer so as to make it more accessible and to make it more convenient for some people to participate. This is my last thought, and I'm really looking forward to civic engagement. And the way I see it, I think the biggest question that we really want to be asking ourselves is, what are we using the technology for? What kind of purpose do we have? What do we want it to achieve? And then also about communicating these purposes and these goals. We want to think about which technologies we choose in different kinds of instances, and to have this shared understanding that this is the technology that we use for a specific purpose. That's it for me. Thank you.